reason it's not showing on the screen. Yeah, thank you. And the next item on the agenda is deputations under Standing Order 3.19. We've got 3 deputations who've been who've requested to attend, and I'd like to invite Phil Almy to address the meeting on item 15, area-wide mitigation. It's item 15, councillors. And I propose to move to item 15 immediately after your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. After a long process, we're here to talk about the area-wide mitigation report that has been presented in various stages since it was asked for in January. This is for the Port Hills Rockpool. Overall, we're very unhappy with this report. It's premised that Sarah-owned properties and bare land not be included in any area-wide mitigation scheme effectively leaves it dead in the water. We're not sure how it came to that. We were of the understanding that this would be done as an independent exercise to display to the council what the numbers look like. The report itself, there are strange justifications why particular properties are not included in the schemes. There's no bare land included, there are no Sarah-owned properties included, there's no single properties included. It leaves a very scant number of properties that could potentially be protected by rockfall protection. So yes, there are no clear areas which show economic benefits. That would certainly be in place were all of the properties included. The technical design of the rockfall protection that is included in the report is completely over-designed, and I make this judgment based on my own technical knowledge and CCC's own criteria for rockfall protection. The costs of the RPS against the life costs of houses they protect are not comparing apples with apples. The RPS life costs include all maintenance costs and such like over the period of 50 years, which is the life of the mitigation measures. They're compared against basically a one-off cost of half of the 2007 government valuation. That does not include the cost of demolition of the houses. It doesn't include the land remediation that will be required. It doesn't include any lost rates income. It's simply not comparing apples with apples. The report doesn't include the benefit to downslope properties which will require rockfall protection in order to obtain building consent or new builds, repairs, that sort of thing. Once the red zone is cleared, I also contend that the report has not been properly peer reviewed independently. Golder's peer review is very limited in its scope. All it does is evaluate or legitimise the method of pricing the rockfall protection over its lifetime. It doesn't make any judgment on the type of rockfall protection priced, and it really doesn't say anything that would lead me to believe that it's a proper peer review. And most certainly, to my knowledge, these people who did the peer review are not independent of council. at least one of them has been seconded to council recently. I ask that you simply resolve that this report is now not well-founded, and that the reason area-wide mitigation is not found to be economically viable is simply because the Sarah-owned properties and the bare land properties are not included. Moving on from the report itself, I'd just like to say a few things about Mr Brownlee's policies with regard to the rockfall protection on Port Hills. The lack of area-wide mitigation or his decision not to implement any rockfall protection on the Port Hills, it's been a disaster in terms of personal and community well-being. It will result in unnecessary destruction of good housing in a city that's screaming for it. It will cost the ratepayers and taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. And arguably, it will increase risk to residents. Is there any good in any of that? So where to from here? We've got a policy which is hell-bent on clearing out the Port Hills red zone. The coercion is extreme. Council staff are adamant that the individual rockfall protection scheme, which is available to individual residents, is working well. Well, I ask you, after 18 months of that scheme being in place, there have been, as I understand it, one removal of source approved. Council staff have assured us that there are actually 3 approvals being given. To my knowledge, that is simply not true. The only approval for works to be done was above, I believe, an address in the Crescent where the actual source could be completely removed, and therefore those properties would be zoned green. Where do residents like myself go from here? We have existing S124 notices on our homes. How is the new district plan going to be dealing with people with existing use rights? We simply don't know. We haven't been included in any conversation over this thing. There are existing resource consent requirements for rockfall protection that aren't, I can't see how they're going to go away. There are existing S124 notices that still have to be lifted. I can't see how that's going to be done at present. This is 3 years after the earthquake. This whole thing is an utter mess, and you know the coercion for residents to just accept the red zone buyout and leave has been extraordinary. I've been involved in all of this. I've been trying to get some results in the political spectrum and the technical spectrum. I don't even know how it's going to work if we stay in our home ourselves. I know it can be done. You know, as an engineer, I know what's required. I just don't see a process for doing it. It's not there. Last time I spoke to you, I brought up the report done by Tony Tague and I think Calvin Berryman, which the previous council commissioned, and its strong recommendation was that any residents in these areas should be involved in the conversation over their houses. Mm. That hasn't happened. It's still not happening. When's it going to happen? We've got 2 months till the red zone offer runs out. my family and I, we'd like some sort of certainty around what's going to happen, because we just don't know. And our only, certain option is to take the red zone offer. And for us, that's simply not an option. It doesn't work for us. So, does anyone have any questions about what I've said? Or?
We've got time for one question. Yanni?
Thank you, Phil, and look, thank you for, I know how hard this has been for you and your family and others in your situation, and you have been coming here, a lot, trying to get us to look at what we can do. I hear your frustrations with government, so if we just accept that the government have a point of view, which we've been unable to change as well as a council, but what is it that we could do as a council if we can't do area-wide mitigation because the government won't let us on their land and won't take into account Crown properties, then in terms of our individual process, is there anything we could do that would be of assistance to you and others in your situation? Are there any changes we could make to that would give people the feeling of us as a council trying to support the desires that people have to be involved in a conversation about their home going forward?
Okay, well, my experience of that particular scheme that's in place now is that council is an adversary rather than trying to help us move on. The evidence is there. In over 18 months, at the start of that scheme, there were hundreds of people who were interested. And over the 18 months that it's been in place, it's virtually resulted in nobody being able to get mitigation in place and save their houses. If MB were to release proper guidelines, it would go a long way to residents being able to use proper processes proper Building Act processes to be able to demonstrate their homes are safe or can be made safe. If council were to call on MB, just like the Parliamentary Regulations Review Committee have, to release those guidelines, that would be great. The S124 notices are put on these houses by council, and surely it's incumbent on you to give residents a method of getting rid of those S124 notices. The individual scheme hasn't done that. It's more, rather than being a helpful scheme, it's just been a barrier and a way of delaying the whole thing. I don't feel like anybody other than the Human Rights Commission and Ruth Dyson is actually on our side.
I'm really sorry, Phil, but thank you very much for making your presentation. And perhaps if we could turn to item 15 on the agenda. Thanks, Phil.